Death Club.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Danny here. Today I'm talking to you about Phantom Seer. So Phantom Seer was published in Weekly Shonen Jump, and sadly this is another series that got canceled. Started in August and ended of April this year with a total of, it says 32 chapters on my anime list, but when I read it on the official Shonen Jump app, there was only 30. And this is written by Tugo Goto and drawn by Kento Matsura. These are both new people in the manga world. The main reason I read this series was to get a bigger scope of what the modern Jump manga is like. So let's just go ahead and dive in. The stars our main character, Riku, who is basically your typical high school girl. And the only thing that's different about her is that she has an ability to sense danger. And one day, as she's talking to her friends in class, another kid walks up to her named Iori and tells her, hey, come meet me in this room after school. And so when she shows up, there's a bunch of talismans all over the place. It's an empty room. He's sitting in there by himself. Kind of weird. This is right off the bat where we get our characters' personalities, because Iori says, oh, wow, I didn't expect you to actually show up. And she responds with, why not? You asked me to, so here I am. And so the main reason Iori asked for her to show up was to talk about what's going on with her. Why is she able to sense danger before things happen? Ask her a few questions, showed her this image of a face and says, hey, guess what? You're being haunted by a phantom. She's startled, doesn't know what's going on, and things take turns like you would expect in a first chapter. Things go wrong because it turns out this phantom is actually more developed than they thought, because the whole body is the face. And as Iori explains, if you only see the face of a phantom, you're still in the early stages, so you should be good. One thing leads to another, and now Iori has to fight this phantom. He grabs his key, which is his weapon, to summon another phantom that's very powerful, that only he can control, because he is one of the famous Katanagi siblings in the shaman world. After all that's said and done, we find out Riku is actually a beckoning hand, and that is a person who attracts phantoms to them. So when she was sensing all this danger, it wasn't because events were happening, it's because phantoms were coming towards her and causing the mayhem that would be in her surroundings. And at the end of the chapter, Iori's older sister, Yayoi, tells him, hey, keep an eye on her, you're going to be protecting her from now on. And of course, he's totally against it because his whole motivation is to become normal. He doesn't want to be a shaman anymore. He doesn't want to do this work. He just wants to be a normal guy. Versus Riku, where she is super interested in this world now and wants to understand more about this ability she has so that way she doesn't put people into harm's way any longer. And so we ensue on a journey with these two characters who mostly go back and forth because their personalities clash. And after going through it, I can understand why this series got canceled. It just took too long to get to the interesting stuff. I would say the last two arcs is where things really got interesting, because there is some uniqueness to the series. I'll give it that. For the most part, with the support cast, they feel exactly how they are. There's no surprises or anything of those sorts. Like, Iori's older sister is exactly how she is. We get a character named Kurose, and he is a ladies' lover, and he acts exactly how you think he's going to act. And then there is the other person, Kenma, who butts heads with Iori, but has a lot of respect for him, so you know exactly how he's going to act with him. So when I was reading it, there really weren't a lot of surprises when it came to the characters and their actions and decisions and what makes them special in this world with phantoms. The thing that drew me in, though, for the manga was actually the art style. For the most part, it's okay. But when we get to the phantoms, that's where it kind of really drew me in, because they have this sort of abstract look to them that I was really digging. Because, you know, you could call them shamans, call them phantoms, but we've seen a bunch of series like this before: Twin Star Exorcist, Blue Exorcist, both titles from Shonen Jump. And to make sure this series stood out, they went with some I thought were great choices in designs for the Phantoms. Even with Kenma, he uses Tengus, and I didn't expect them to look like they did, but I really liked how they looked. And even with the first Phantom that they fight, that's just a giant head, that was great. And then with Iori, he can manipulate shadows. That's also his other ability. I thought all that stuff is great and really is the strong suit here, especially towards the last two arcs. Like I mentioned, those are the strongest points. There's a new character that gets introduced, and she's able to transform into something. And when we see that transformation, I thought, hey, that is a little more unique. It's not a clean design, if you know what I mean. Like, the transformation looks messy. Some body distortions during some of that is nice. And I don't know if it's because the manga got canceled or not, but there is a lack of explanation of the lore in the world. Like, sure, we get the basic structure of how the shamans work, where Iori's home is. It's actually an inn for shamans and all of that stuff. But as far as over explaining things, that is in almost every single manga, breaking down how the rules work with powers and all that stuff, not really prevalent here. And I thought that was fine, because you don't really need to go super detail into it. You just know when you use phantoms, it takes a certain toll on your body. And if you go too far with more powerful phantoms, you could get corrupted and get taken over. And that's really all you need to know. And then boom, we could just dive into seeing other people's abilities by using different types of phantoms. And that's pretty cool. So that was a nice aspect into this series that feels refreshing from a typical manga that you would read in a shonen magazine. But again, like I said, it just kind of took too long to get there. And of course, the first half is like any normal first half series, where it's really about the build-up of stuff. Let's get some cool designs in there. Monster of the week, if you will. Understand more about our characters Riku and Iori and their relationship as it gets a little bit stronger before we move on into the bigger scope of the story, where they have to significantly rely on each other. For the most part, that stuff just wasn't too interesting, mainly because Riku, sure, she grew a little bit. She's understanding more about the world and wants to be more useful. You could feel her dedication to the cause. But then with Iori, it's just the same back and forth with him, where he's lazy, he lacks motivation, he doesn't want to do anything, to at the very end, oh, he is someone who you can rely on in a pinch, which is said numerous times. And that could just drag on, really. For the interesting stuff, where we're basically getting to the mini-bosses, essentially the people who work under the main antagonist of the series, which of course is connected to Iori in one way or another during the flashback stuff we get. They were cool, and I wish we would have gotten them a lot sooner, like get right into the jump and focus on it, because that could have picked things up. And unfortunately, that was probably when Jump decided to can the series, because I was reading the last arc, it's like, oh yeah, it's ending in like 2 chapters. We're going to have to wrap this up super quick and just see where it goes from there. And the ending is kind of rushed, which sucks. Could have been an interesting one if they would have kept going. I wanted to see more of what kind of phantoms are out there and what kind of different scenarios they have to go into to stop the main antagonist. All of that to say is I'm looking forward to what their next project is going to be after this and seeing what they can do. I think if they could bring that subtle freshness that was in here and stick to some strong designs for enemies that our main characters have to fight, I think they'll be able to do a good job. And with that, that's really all I have to say today about Phantom Seer, guys. What did you think about the series? Did Jump cancel it too soon, or was it not your vibe? Let us know. You could send us an email to unversepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll bring those up on future episodes. And you can follow us at unversepodcast anywhere you go, and we'll let you know when those episodes drop. So thank you guys, and we will catch you on the next one.